In between the swings. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Fifth Perspective. I finally feel more settled into my house from the Eaton fires. It was crazy. The first night on the 7th, I was in the worst place possible when that windstorm hit in Pasadena, and I had to wind my way through trees completely ripped out of the ground and parts of houses, like metal and plastic in the road and like flying across. Um, it did ruin part of my car on the top. It like those rubber strips, it just tore them apart with the 100-mile winds. I did not believe them when they reported the winds, and I will not believe them again. So, and then that night, like the fires just hit. It was like on my drive home from Pasadena, I saw fires about 8 minutes from my house near Arroyo Parkway, like on the side of the mountain, just like glowing red. And it was just like, oh my God. And then my roommate, my best friend, she was sending me photos too of like fires on streets that were like 5 to 8 minutes away from us. The smoke piled so bad over our side where we actually did have to leave. Like we tried saying I don't even know why, because our power went out and the smoke smell just poured in the house. And we all, like, we were just so sick by the next morning. And we had a CO2 tracker and looked at it, and it was already like right near like redlining. And that's when we realized, oh my God, the CO2 levels are high in the house. We just need to go. So yeah, we were gone for a few days and then came back when the power was back on. Always had a suitcase packed just in case. I know we're still having the fires. I feel better though, because the one right by me, the Eaton fire is like way more under control. Yeah, I think they have like almost 50% now. I have to check again. But so I finally unpacked my suitcase and just like reworking my energy back after the craziness. So yeah, last video I posted, I did promise that my story would be to go over a past life I remembered. I never believed in a past life ever. Yeah, no. And I don't believe things until I experience it. So I did not believe this until I had no choice but to. And like all the pieces from even childhood, both of our childhoods, me and his childhood, made so much sense. And the other weird thing is that in this life, I'll get to that, but it was so bizarre seeing how I retract like to the same areas as the past life. It's really weird. Okay, so to start, when I was a kid, like in grade school, I I remember telling my mom all the time, like, I miss the 20s, I miss the 1920s. And it never really dawned on me till I got older. And when this all kind of came together, I was like, oh my God, like, how could I miss something I never experienced, you know? So I would say that a lot. And when there was like jazz music playing, I would get I liked it, but I would get like sad in a way and feeling sentimental, didn't know why. But my God, was I obsessed with the fashion from the 1920s. That's all I would ever look in for clothing were the dresses from that era, where I was like convinced that like if and when I ever got married one day, I would have that style dress. I don't really want that style dress anymore, but I understand why. I was like so all about it. Um, anyway, So yeah, and then in grade school, it was like around like first, second, third grade, I'm thinking the same thing, like, wait a minute, this is not my face. Like this this is not, I know I am me, but this is not me, you know? And I had a very specific idea of what my face was supposed to look like. And I was very confused because when I was a kid, I looked 100% Chinese. I didn't look like a mix at all. And I was so confused because I was like, this is wrong. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm not supposed to be a mix. I'm supposed to be white. Like this is wrong, you know? And so in my head, I was like, no, no, like there was something that like I missed from this thing I knew. And I told myself, I was like, you are growing right now, like you're growing up, your body's gonna shift and change. And I was like, I thought to myself that I needed to shift my face to grow as much as close as I could to this idea I had in my head of what I used to look like. Okay. Um, I'll bring up, so the guy that I realized was this person before, his name is Randy. Randy, when he was a kid, he felt like he was missing a lot of his height and it didn't make sense to him. Um, he always felt off about like, yeah, his height. He just always thought that he was shorter than he was supposed to be. And there was also, he always had an obsession with John Dillinger, always had an obsession with like that gangster era, the gangster cars from the 1920s, 30s. And um, he also believed it was like around his 29th or 30th birthday that he was like solidly believed that he was going to die that year. And so much so that he did not celebrate his birthday. These are things that he told me after we put two and two together. So I met Randy 2 times before we really became friends, and I never talked to him. I went to a high school near Cleveland, Ohio, and he went to another high school that was the rivaling high school. He was friends with my friend Sarah at the time, my friend Sarah's boyfriend. So he was friends with her boyfriend. And I could not stand her boyfriend. He was a piece of shit. He really was. And so the 2 times I saw Randy, never, didn't even know his name, didn't care to know him, never talked to him. That was it. High school, around 16 years old, I had a very present, real dream. Like there was so much detail to this. It felt like I was actually there. Like it felt real. Um, in the dream, I realize it's the first and last time I meet this man. When we met, I remember being in a bank and it was all cream colored like stone, like marble. And the round vault, those like old fashioned huge round vaults. I was wearing, I just remember like having a darker skirt on to my knees, the low heel. I don't know if it was a dress or a top and skirt. I feel like it was a top with the skirt. Um, I knew my hair was wavy and and dark brown to about here, which I know you can't tell right now, but my hair actually is naturally wavy. And I remembered like growing up being like, oh, my hair is like very, like pretty much the same of how it was in the past life. Um, Diet black now. But my hair keeps getting lighter and I can't stand the color. But when I was younger, it was like such a dark brown, it almost looked black. Um, and that was the same thing. It was like very dark brown, wavy hair. And suddenly these gangsters run in with their guns, and it was, I see four gangsters running in and one person who's the lead person. We all get down on the ground because they're yelling. We're down, and I'm like face down on the ground, like this in my hands. And a man's voice, I didn't hear everything that was said, but I look up and I see his face, and he has his hand out to me. And everyone else is face down on the ground, but he helps me stand up. That was the beginning of this romance that was kept quiet because he was a wanted man. I do believe it was very brief, like not long, but this person was, I knew very well, the love of my life. I got chills saying that, but it's true. And then it went to the last time we were together. And we were sitting on like the second floor of this all white stone building. It wasn't my place. I knew it wasn't his. I had no idea where we actually were. And it was hot and humid with the air. We were sitting on this half circle balcony with these wide balcony posts and the double French doors. Okay, so I was sitting on his lap facing him with my arms around like here. And he was facing out toward the balcony more, but it was like at an angle, so I kind of saw the balcony, but I was seeing the double French doorway, very tall. And these like sheer white curtains kind of blowing out. And there was like so much love there. And I remember his face was very particular because like I was attracted to him, and I knew he had this like gentle side that most people didn't see. Yeah, like he wasn't the most attractive guy, but like I just thought I just like loved him completely. And I do remember standing out to me were these scars on his face. I remember that. I remember his face perfectly. And I was wearing a cream colored slip to my knees. And he said something to me, and I didn't know what he said. He said something to me, and there was like this sadness there, and we kissed, and then I woke up. This dream, like, I have dreams where, even when spirits come visit me, like, you're fully aware. Like, it's different. It's not like a dream. It's different. Like it's like as if I'm present here, but I am present there. And this is what it felt like. For 3 months after that, I could not stop thinking about this man. I was like grieving and crying so much. And I'm kind of getting choked up, even seeing that now. And I didn't understand. Like, I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, how am I like thinking about this like man who like isn't even real. Like I feel like I just made him up. Like, is he real? I started questioning this. I'm thinking like I'm losing it, like you just need to stop. And yeah, it was like 3 months solid, crying so much, feeling like I loved this man so much and like I was grieving. Okay. So all these years go by, and in 2014, I'm living in Chicago. So I left Cleveland by 2007 after the car accident that happened on the highway that should have killed me. When that car accident happened, um, I don't know where I was. Like, I felt like I was gone for a week, and I like forgot me almost. I felt like I was gone from the sun and grass and all of that for so long. Like I almost forgot it all. And I told my mom over and over, I'm like, look, I know that you still see me the same and you hear this voice, but I don't know what happened. I am not the same person. Like I did die that day. Um, and after that accident, there was just something so clear to me that was like, I need to move to Chicago. And nobody in my family could understand it. Like, wait, what, why? Like, why don't you just, use the money from the settlement to get a car or this, that? And I'm like, no, like, I don't know why. Like, I just need to go. So I did, which led me to a very long time boyfriend, ex, who is still in my life, who I care about and will always love. Um, Not the same as before. I am hoping I don't repeat the past. I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, so, and his name is Ryan. So I'm just like, I need to go to Chicago. I have to go. I go to Chicago. I meet Ryan. We have our whole thing. In 2014, I finally decide, like, we went through a lot. And it was a lot of just heartbreak and things that rocked my world, and sure, toxicity. Um, and one night, um, I was sleeping, and this is when he was living with me. We were like sleeping next to each other. And suddenly, again, I become very aware. I'm like up in the clouds. This is one of two times I had something with God. Whatever God is, you know, um, things portray a certain way to you so that you can understand and recognize what they are. So I never saw like God's face, and which is really interesting because there's books of people and stories of people who die and come back to life, and like same thing, like you'll never see God's face. Don't know why. I don't know. That's just what happened with me. So this figure was huge. Like the size of the hand was like bigger than me. And I thought it's so interesting that God chose to portray, I don't like saying himself, you know what I mean, as this figure with like hands that look like they were like always working and like creating things, like maker, like you're making things all the time. And that's exactly what God is, right? A creator of many things. Um, and and he tells me, okay, also, I am here in up in the clouds, but I also see and know how I'm laying down in my bedroom and I know that Ryan's next to me. So I'm like in two places at the same time. And like nothing, God just parts the clouds, points down to these like buildings, and I know exactly where this is. It's Brooklyn. And he says, "This is where you need to go. I know you don't want to go there, but you have to, not for a long time. You're going to hate it there. It's going to be very hard for you, but you're meant to meet someone important." I felt like it was a couple people. Um, and it's important for them to meet you. And and that like I'll know why later. And don't worry, you and Ryan are, because I was like feeling scared of leaving him, even though we were like getting to that point probably of breaking up anyway. And he was like, "Don't worry, um, like about Ryan, like you two are meant to be together to help each other grow and for the better and keep learning and progressing." But I also felt like that's not going to be the way I think. Like I had a feeling that like we for sure would have a round two of a relationship, which we did. The time frame I felt of us like reconnecting was 5 years, which it was, um, in that manner. But like I had the feeling that it's not going to be how I think, but it's going to be in the way it's supposed to. So like what it turned out to be is us like we have been working on one EP for music, um, and stayed friends or like family. Um, Not gonna lie, we're in an argument right now. Um, Family isn't easy. So that was that, and oh yeah, and like all around us in the clouds too were like all these angels. I could like hear the wings and stuff, and it just felt so peaceful, so much love. Anyway, so I say okay, and what I say, thinking you don't have to talk to be understood on when it like has to do with spirit things. Like a lot of times you just see each other's eyes, or I'll hear the voice, but like in here, not like in my ears. Um, I basically promise that I will go, but I just signed a lease. Like I signed a new lease. And so if I'm meant to move, I said I'm going to leave it in your hands to break that lease and make it happen where I can move, you know. I and wake up in the way that I know that I'm already sleeping. About a month after that, um, the tenants below me, and I loved this apartment building so much. Chicago was having a huge issue with bed bugs, and the apartment below me, they had illegal sublets move in. And I was getting like started getting bit like crazy. I went downstairs knocking on their door and I was like, "I'm so sorry. Like I literally like nothing else has changed in this building except for you guys moving in, and I didn't even know you guys moved in. Like, are you guys by any chance getting bit? Because I'm getting bit and there's no way it's coming from my apartment. I'm trying to figure this out." And they were like, "Oh yeah." They're like, "Oh yeah. We we get bites all the time. They're like all of our furniture." I'm just like, "Are you joking me?" So I called the management company, told them what's up. They went to look in their place and confirmed this is the case. The lease broke. Like I had to get out of there because I know how hard it is to get rid of these things. And even when they spray, they'll still be, it's like you're committing to like at least a year or more of like dealing with this, you know? So I was done. I broke my lease. I thought of that dream. I'm like, no way. I'm like putting my clothes in trash bags, throwing them out the window. I left a lot of stuff. I left mostly everything and just took like, I think like 3 suitcases of clothes with me. Yep. And And so I'm looking for apartments in Chicago. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, why can I not find, for the life of me, one apartment? Like, what is going on? Can't find one, like in my price range, one I like, nothing. And I know they exist. Every time I was looking for an apartment, I couldn't find one. And then I felt like something fly down and hit me in my chest. This happened like 3 times. Phew, New York. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't want to go. Phew, New York. And the third time again, like New York City. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, okay, I know I promised. Like, okay, okay, I will go. So I made the decision to go and I moved there in 2014 of, I think it was like June or July. I did not last there long. I did what I needed to do while there, and I left, I think like after 8 months because I I just really needed more balance with nature and mountains and better weather and a beach. Anyway, um, I didn't know it yet, but that's what I wanted. So yeah, I like up and moved. And while I'm in this city, think of how huge New York City is, okay? Of all people I run into on the street is Sarah from high school, my friend from high school that like I stopped talking to in high school. So run into her and we're like, oh my God, we start hanging out again. And I'm thinking, like, this is so weird. Like, why have all people Sarah, you know? Christmas rolls around, and I go home, back to my hometown by Cleveland for holidays. She asked me if I want to meet out at a bar while I was there. I said, sure. Go out to meet her. And then when I got there, she's like, oh, I invited a friend of mine. You might know him, you might remember him. Is that okay if he comes? I'm like, yeah, obviously. Guy walks in the door and I recognize him immediately to be her like ex-boyfriend's friend, right? The boyfriend that was hers in high school, Randy. And immediately, like we start talking, and like there's just this connection there where I can't explain it. Like the more we talked and hung out, it was very weird for me, and I'm only gonna assume that this was for him too, because when we found out everything and put the pieces together, like we actually had to we took time apart. Like we did not, I think because the grieving and it was just like so mind blowing and everything we figured out and the grieving was real that we took like I think it was like a few years apart um when all was said and done. I mean we're still friends now. Um and okay, so yeah, there's this weird thing with Randy, and the more we hang out, I'm just feeling confused because I'm like, why do I feel like such good friends with this person already who I just met? Feel like I've known him forever, and like it even got so confusing because in this life I wasn't pulled towards him or like attracted in that way, but I also felt like I like really loved him, right? Like, oh, I really love him. This is so confusing. I don't understand because even our personality types in this life, no offense, Randy, we would drive each other insane, you know? Like, I just know we would. So, every life you have when you come back, you aren't the exact same person again. You don't have the exact same personality. Hence why the stories of who plays what part, it changes every time. I know this. Like, so it's like, even my mom now or people in my family now, they were not that to me before. And I don't know who's going to be my next family after. This is where we keep coming over and over again in this physical, let's say, earth school to keep learning and what we still haven't learned yet. So, like, the interesting part is, other people we judge. It's like, to me, it's like the most ridiculous thing in the world because even those people you judge or look down on or who did horrible things or who this, that, we are going to have that life too. It's just what we're doing on compiling information, on learning the best we can in every life scenario, what love really is and happiness is. And when we pass from here, we are bringing that information back over collectively as a whole. This is why I don't know why we all, the biggest trick is we feel like we're individuals and separate because we have these physical bodies. That the biggest thing to get past is the physical reality. Because when we leave here, we don't take our bodies with us. And all the judgments we held on people before, it all sheds away. It really does. The people who have issues with families, like I do, right? Like I've gotten to a place where I'm okay accepting whatever happens because I know that this is a temporary stop. And when we leave here, we're going to reunite on the other side, together as one. And we'll understand each other completely without words, their life experience. Anyway, so yeah, like this happens. We become friends. We really get to know each other. I go back to New York. Things just like happen where I can't handle it anymore because, and this is on YouTube, you can check out the videos. I've never been more severely depressed in my life living somewhere because as a woman, I was like harassed, like sexually harassed, like 9 to 10 times a day by men, like saying the most inappropriate things, following me down the street where I felt so unsafe. I even had a stalker do circles around at night when I'm trying to walk to the train. And like a random stranger who lived at this house realized that I didn't know this guy, and he came out to basically get him to go away, and he walked me to the train. But like I've never had things like that happen to me, and it would get so bad where like I would just put earbuds in my ears and not play anything just so people would leave me alone. Like these men would leave me alone. And like, yeah, no. And I would like literally barricade myself in my house for days just to like rework my energy back up because I'm very empathic and I'm very sensitive with my surroundings, and it was just too much for me. So I finally decide, it was like 8 months later, like I'm not doing this. I was trying to figure out if I was gonna go back to Chicago or LA, but then I was reading The Alchemist, and there was a part in a chapter where he goes forward, and so I was like, okay. And I also hear, go to California. You'll get better here. Because at that time I was going through so much health stuff. And I thought it would be like, oh, I'll get better, physically with my health. I did not know that it would be like literally on every single level, like physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, where I would gain more balance. Yeah. So Randy offers to move me to Cleveland temporarily because at this point, my parents were divorced and my mom had a spot there. So I was going to crash there until I got the deposit back from that place and use that to go to LA. all these connecting pieces. So when we're driving down, we decide that we are going to take a break and rest at the oldest building in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. We are literally in the oldest building in Gettysburg and sitting in the courtyard. And we sit out having a conversation. And suddenly I feel this funnel of energy like gently come down, kind of like the idea of before a tornado hits, but it wasn't that aggressive energy. It was just like this gentle energy that came down into my chest and out my mouth. And I just start out of nowhere, for no reason, start talking about the dream I had in high school. The first and last time I had this dream. But I did not get far. All I said was, there's this dream I had in high school of the first and last time I met this man in the 1920s. And he was like the love of my life. And I remember being in the bank. And that's pretty much as far as I got. I didn't get into any going over the dream or details whatsoever. And as I'm starting to say these things, I just like see him clenching his jaw, and he's like, his eyes are starting to water, and I'm like, what is going on, And he's just like, are you serious? Are you serious? Are you effing serious? And I'm like, what is happening right now? And he just gets up from the table immediately, and I mean immediately, where his chair flies back and falls down, and he storms off. And I'm left like jaw dropped, like I've never seen him mad like this. And I'm like, or whatever it was, emotional. And I'm like, what the F is going on? Like, what did I say, And then he suddenly comes back to the table, like bawling his face off, crying to me. And he just like slams his hands on the table. He's like, I know what you're going to say to me, because that was me and I was there. And I'm just like, what? Like, I literally thought, like, I was like shaking. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Sorry, I was trying not to swear. But that's what I said. And he's like, that was me. I was there. I know everything. And I literally felt like I was going to fall out of my body. I thought literally that something was going to tear in front of me, like in space and time, and I was just going to fall right out. That is how, and the chills I had going through my body, like that is how insane. Like, I've never felt this way before. Anyway, that's part one of the story that leads up to like realizing the whole reincarnation past life thing. I will be posting part two very soon. And that will go through the rest of the story. And I'm very excited to share the rest of this story. Until next time.